Climate change is real and it's bad. We can see the impacts already with glaciers melting, intense heat waves, and never seen before floodings. We know the polar bear will lose its habitat. But how does climate change impact us humans? And how is climate change violating our human rights? In this short video, we will teach you how the climate crisis affects us and why it is a human rights crisis. While some rights impacted might be rather obvious, there are some rights that are affected that might surprise you. At the end of the video, we'll give you some practical ideas on what you can do to stop the Earth from heating up. So stay with us. Hi, I'm Björn from Climate Education. We produce videos where we inform you about climate change and empower you to stop the crisis. So first of all, climate change is happening because humanity is burning fossil fuels, which releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which traps the heat of the sun, resulting in the Earth getting warmer. So it is a human-made crisis. We clearly need to stop burning fossil fuels to prevent climate change from getting worse. If we fail to do so, the consequences for humanity will be disastrous. In this video, we will first go through some facts of how our human rights are and what they are and how they will be impacted, some of which will be hard to listen to. But hold on, there is good news. We can actually solve the crisis. We will share this right after this, so don't despair. So, what is it with climate change and human rights? We understand it is an environmental issue, obviously. Not only the polar bears reminds us of this. And also, we feel the impacts of climate change through nature in the first place, right? We know sea levels are rising, we see our rivers overflowing, and we feel the summer heat is getting worse. We also often think of climate change as something that affects the economy, and with it the cost for starting the energy transition. We get all that. But why should this be a human rights issue? I get asked this a lot, so I thought, why not explain it in a short video for everyone here? So here we go, about why the climate crisis is a human rights crisis. The first point to make here is to understand what human rights actually are. Human rights can be explained as rights that allow us to live free and with dignity. Also, human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. So all of us should have our human rights protected. In fact, there are a number of human rights. These include the right to life, to liberty, freedom from slavery, torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. So the next question is, which human rights are impacted? The short answer would be many of them. Some more directly through climate change impacts such as extreme weather events, others more indirectly. Human rights that are impacted by climate change include, for example, the right to life, health, water, sanitation, food, housing, culture and development, and the right to nationality. We will go through them now briefly, one by one. So let's start with the first human right, which is the right to life. How could climate change threaten this one? When we think about the impacts of climate change, this includes, for example, stronger storms and tropical cyclones, longer and more intense heat waves, and more frequent flooding. More and more people are losing their lives by collapsing on the streets because it is simply too hot or they are dehydrated. Some are drowning in the floods, others are hit by a tree or other objects that are falling on people as they seek for rescue. No one should see their life end because humanity continues to burn fossil fuels. Yet, this is exactly what is happening. The right to health connects to this, as some who suffer from this climate impacts might not be losing their lives, but still see the health impacted. This includes injuries and heat strokes, but also more indirect ones such as waterborne and vector-borne diseases, which are diseases transmitted by mosquitoes. Tropical diseases such as malaria, the Zika virus, and dengue fever, which are transmitted to humans via mosquitoes, are spreading to regions of the world, which used to be too hot, too cold for the mosquito to survive as the world is warming. Oh, and by the way, pollen is getting worse as well due to climate change, not to speak of the air pollution people are suffering due to the burning of fossil fuels. Obviously, the right to clean water and sanitation connects here, but it's not only waterborne diseases we need to mention here in this context. As floods and storms destroy landscapes and wash away things, they often pollute freshwater resources that people depend on. One cannot go without water, so some people are then forced to use or even drink polluted water and get sick as a result. In addition, after an aftermath of a supercyclone or a storm, there might be cases of limited or no functioning toilets. When we talk about water, we also need to talk about food, the next human right on our list. For any food, we need water, be it to grow grains, vegetables, or fruits, or for the animals that people eat, or their milk or eggs they consume. As climate change influences rainfall, be it more or less rain, this has serious impacts on our food supply. Also, as seawater levels rise, water from the oceans flows over land, leaving the soil with too much salt for agriculture to sustain. The problem of polluted water and air we mentioned earlier impacts our right to food as well. Next, we need to mention the right to housing. Storms, floods, soil erosion, and other climate change impacts can damage or destroy houses. Not everyone is able to rebuild their houses, and not always resettlement support exists. Even when alternatives are provided, these are sometimes in areas that lack access to other existential resources and services, such as lack of hospitals, schools, or work. Oh, and by the way, there's also the right to education and work. So, as you see, even more human rights are negatively impacted in indirect ways. Last on our list is the right to culture and development and the right to nationality. Let's talk about the right to nationality first and use the example of the state of Kiribati, a small low-lying island state in the Pacific Ocean. As climate change causes sea levels to rise, it is almost certain that parts of, if not the whole country of Kiribati, will disappear under the waves. Now, if this happens, what will happen to the people of these islands? In fact, the president of Kiribati has already bought land on the island of Fiji, which is more mountainous as Kiribati. Let's say all the people of Kiribati will eventually move to Fiji. Who will they be there? Will they still be citizens of the state of Kiribati? But the country is under the sea now. Would Fiji give them the land they have bought by the state of Kiribati? Will they naturalize and become citizens of Fiji? Will they be granted refugee status? The sad answer is that we don't know. International human rights law doesn't take climate change as a reason for refugee status, and it's probably unlikely that states will give away parts of their territory to other states. This connects to the remaining issue of the right to culture and development. Continuing to use our example of the people of Kiribati moving to Fiji or other states, what will happen to their culture, their language, and their community life? They have lived on their homelands for hundreds of generations. Would it be possible to preserve all of this whilst living abroad in different surroundings? Would they all be able to live together in the first place? Again, unlikely. So, as we have seen, climate change impacts our human rights in various ways, and we're all going to be affected in one way or the other. It's not only a matter of the environment or the economy, but it is first and foremost a human rights crisis. And dare I say, the biggest challenge humanity has ever faced. So far, it doesn't look good. But there's good news. We actually have everything that we need to solve the crisis. We have the technology to stop burning fossil fuels with renewable energy technologies such as wind and solar. They are proven and they are ready to be expanded. And they are getting cheaper and cheaper. They are cheaper than coal, oil, and gas in many countries of the world already, and the trend continues. They'd be even more cost competitive if all subsidies for fossil fuels would be finally stopped. But as they are still exceeding any subsidies for renewables so far, we have the technologies and we have the money. Solving the crisis is a matter of political will. We are moving in the right directions, but not fast enough. We need our political leaders to act and stop these matters from getting worse. And we can. Here are 3 easy actions anybody can do to fight the climate crisis. So worry not, it's actually rather simple. Number 1, talk about climate change. This could be to your friends at school, university, or at the workplace. The more the topic is being discussed by all of us, the more it's up on the agenda, which then puts pressure on the governments to act. Number 2, share something related to climate change on social media. This could be an article or a simple thought you have on this topic. You might get some reactions from your friends and followers, which will let you know who else is interested in this topic and potentially in taking action. Number 3, learn more. The more you know about the climate crisis, the more confident you will become speaking up and taking action. Now, you don't need to become a climate scientist by any means. Just try to understand the basics, which will help you to help to solve the climate crisis. So, what do you think? What else can we do to stop the climate crisis? Let us know